What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 181. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today, he went to the OVC tournament. You know him very well. He's the co-owner, co-founder of the Everything College Basketball brand. We're talking about my teammate and my brother, Mr. Peyton Burton.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show, episode 181. I just woke up not too long ago because the time change kind of messed up my whole sleep schedule up just a little bit. Got an extra hour to sleep in, which I can't complain. I always need an extra hour to sleep. Need my beauty sleep. Came back, long hours yesterday. It was a long day at the Evansville, Indiana for the OVC Tournament Championship. And, man, what a game that was. We'll get into that here in a minute. But tickets being punched. It's March, conference tournaments. I love everything about it, man.
We just, probably 25 minutes ago, we had another bid punch. We're going to talk all about that. We will have a special guest joining us here in less than 7 or 8 minutes. We seen him play last night. He helped lead Morehead State back to the NCAA tournament with a 21-point performance last night. Mr. Drew Thelwell will be joining us here in about 7 or 8 minutes. But Peyton, let's start today's show off. We always like to talk a little news before we get started. With it being conference, champ week and all that stuff, not a whole lot of newsworthy stuff, except for one thing I do want to touch on for Indiana fans. Unfortunately, they had one recruit signed up for next year's class, and it was a big one. He's a top 15 recruit, Mr. Liam McNeely. I mean, Indiana's lacking shooting. We've talked about this all year. This is a guy who has good size that can absolutely stroke the ball. That was going to be their prize recruit coming in next year to hopefully fix some of those issues. Well, earlier this week, it got announced that Coach Woodson had faith and confidence from the Indiana Board of Directors and all that he would at least get one more year to stay on the job. It was probably 24 hours later that McNeely decommits and asks out of his letter of intent from Indiana. And then, Peyton, the rumor is that Bill Self made a phone call. He seems to be a Kansas lean now. Things are going from bad to worse for Indiana. Ironically, when they're playing their best basketball, winners of 3 in a row, and they're currently up 16 at home on senior day against Michigan State. Your thoughts on McNeely's decommitment?
First of all, let me respond to Connor. He said, hashtag bring back Mr. Recruiter. I'm so happy someone just mentioned that. Listen, I don't know if Mr. Recruiter, I think Mr. Recruiter is the forgotten gimmick. I think that gimmick's dead. It's gimmick infringement. I'm not Chris Jericho. I got to evolve. I got to change out my gimmick here now and then. I have not done any recruiting news in a while, but the fact is I still keep up with it as much as my ability as if I possibly can. But this one I'm definitely keeping up with. Liam McNeely, he's a sharpshooter, top 15 recruit. Was going to Indiana. His last 3 schools was Indiana, Kansas, and Texas. It's pretty in the running. I was keeping up on Twitter when he announced he was decommitting, asking out of his LOI. I was keeping up on Twitter, and the first thing I seen was Trilly Donovan posting, Bill Self is a fucking gangster. Yeah. And that alone, I had my mind racing because I remember Kansas being on his list and being one of the teams that he was looking after. And once he posted that, and I scrolled through the comments, and everybody had the kind of same mindset and agreement as me that he's probably KU bound, which makes me excited because you put him with Rakis Passmore, you put him with Floyd Vendanga. Yeah, you put him with some high-level 5-star recruits that's already coming in for next year, and then some guys potentially coming back like DeJuan Harris. Next year's Kansas team could be even more, could definitely be back to what we're used to. We're having depth, specifically at the guard spot. But, man, tough break for Indiana. You need some momentum, and you lost it all in basically the span of 24 hours.
While we wait on Drew to get in here, let's talk a little bit more in depth about, obviously, the McNeely decommitment hurts. And the ironic thing, again, is they're playing their best basketball. They've won 3 in a row. They're blowing out Michigan State in the first half right now as we record this. We've talked about it, and I think I know where you'll go with this, but you lose your only recruit, your prize recruit at that. Do you think if you're the board of directors and the people in charge of hiring and firing at Indiana, the AD, would you reconsider that stance that you made earlier in the week? Bad look or not, would you reconsider it? Because the rumblings are, and again, these are unfounded rumors, but they're actually kind of good rumors too from some reliable people, that things are not well. We could see a mass exodus from Indiana, a lot of people, not just 3 or 4. I'm talking about Indiana may have to play walk-ons if he doesn't hit the transfer portal hard. Indiana may be at the start of rock bottom for next year if this thing does not get course corrected in a hurry. And you have guys like Dusty May, and we've heard the rumors, again, rumors, but you hear the rumors of guys like Bruce Pearl would take the job in a heartbeat. He would take Indiana in a heartbeat. So if you could get Bruce Pearl and you could save your class and maybe get back on the right things and start building your way back to beat Indiana basketball, don't you think you would probably do that?
I don't know. I don't know what the correct answer on this is because they've already announced he's coming back. He did like his little press conference. They already announced that he's coming back. So you can't really, I mean, I guess you, quote unquote, you can go back on your word. But if you do it this soon just because your top 15, your only recruit for next year, decommitted and asked out of his LOI, it kind of makes you look like in a bad light, makes you not look good in the media, which, I mean, I don't know if they really give a damn about that. But you shouldn't have came out and
said anything then.
Yeah, but the question about me is nobody expected him to decommit until after Woodson was announced he's coming back. And the question I have is, like, he committed when Woodson was there. He committed for Woodson. So when Woodson got announced he's coming back, wouldn't you think he would stay? There's got to be some more into this than just the whole Woodson drama, in my opinion. But the fact is, I think you mentioned Bruce Pearl, you mentioned Dusty May, and I'll give credit where credit's due. I heard Philadelphia 68 talk about it last night. Let's wait a year. Let's wait till next year. Let's see if Josh Schertz from Indiana State, let's see what he does. Let's see if he can run it back next year, especially after losing the OVC Championship today. Let's see if what he does next year, if they can get the same team back, maybe get some of those guys back and have a decent year, punch the bid into next year's tournament. And let's throw him on a short list because I think he's done an incredible job at Indiana State this year. They've been in the talk of the team in the mid-majors, one of the most exciting, fun basketball teams to watch in the country.
Put him in the tournament.
Exactly. We'll get to him in the tournament. Let's keep him into the mix, thanks, because he's done great this year.
No, I'm with you on that. And again, all these, I want to state this one last time. These are rumors. Just so we can't get sued, these are rumors. But I like the old saying where there's smoke, there's fire usually. And shout out to some of our people in the Facebook group that have been, pushing some of these rumors as well. But then I've heard them from other places that said once McNeely committed, and I forget, it was like November, December, whenever it was he committed, last fall, we'll say, that according to the rumors, Woodson kind of lost contact with him, just cut communications. And if you're a top-ranked player like that, you're excited. But then if your future head coach maybe doesn't show you the love like he once showed you after you committed, and you got this Hall of Famer, the best coach we've said in college basketball to date, Bill Self, kind of tinker around and being like, let's spin the block again and let's see if we can get him. I mean, it's easy to see why maybe now he's all of a sudden, you know what, this guy stopped talking to me. Bill Self wants me. Why don't I go play for a team I know I'm going to have a chance to win championships for? If that is, again, they're rumors, but
Allegedly, we can use that word. Allegedly, that's the key word for this. And I agree. That makes a little bit more sense for him to decommit if Woodson, quote unquote, allegedly didn't keep in contact with them after his recruitment, after he got him into Indiana. Because even though you got the kid in your program, committed for next year, you signed his LOI, you should still keep in touch with him, like 100%. So I agree with that.
Absolutely. Speaking of keeping in touch, we are now being joined he dropped 21 points last night in the Ohio Valley Conference Championship tournament to help lead Morehead State back to an NCAA tournament. We had a nice little interaction after all the celebrations were over. We were joined today by Mr. Drew Thelwell. Drew, it was nice to get to talk to you a little bit. It was crazy loud in there last night. We tweeted about it. We were doing all the stuff about it. Morehead State fans showed up and showed out last night in Evansville. Congratulations, my friend, and just talk me through it. Talk me through the emotions. You guys are going dancing.
Man, mind around it. And just like, again, the Morehead community coming out and just supporting it. It meant the world to us. I remember at the end of the game, like, I'm hugging my coaches. Like, it just felt so good. And I fell to the floor and I was letting it out. And it just felt too good.
Dude, you were pumped. You and your whole team had the phones out. You guys were celebrating. I don't know if you're Instagram Live maybe, having a little fun with some Twitter action. I mean, but let's talk about the game. Obviously, you guys jumped Little Rock. You went up 21-4 in a blink of an eye. They kind of settled down. They go on to run themselves, get back in the game. And then at one point, midway through the second half there, they actually come back and take a lead. during when I think it was like the under 12 media timeout, right around there when they had tucked the lead, what did Coach Spradlin tell you guys? Did he tell you to remain calm? You guys got this. What was the huddle like after Little Rock rallied back to take the lead?
The huddle was basically like you said. We're fine. We're gonna keep executing our game plan and stick with what we got. And it was basically we were talking and we said that's the best they got. You know, every team goes on a run, and we knew we could withstand that run. And obviously the results speak for themselves.
Peyton?
Yeah, I got a question. I want to ask you about last year, because last year you guys lost to SEMO in the semifinal, who eventually went on to win the OVC Championship last year. Come back to this year. You guys have a really good year. You're 22-12. You was the 3rd seed in the OVC tournament. You was one of the favorites to win this damn thing, and you go on to do that, but you had some adversity to do that. How much did last year's heartbreaker, not coming out victorious, losing in the semifinal, going up a game short, how much did last year's heartbreaker play into how you guys played into this year's game?
Well, I know for me, it put a chip on my shoulder. You know, that's all I was thinking about since we lost in like early March last year, and all my workouts, all those like summer workouts we had. You know, we had one thing in mind, like that can't happen again. You know, and when we brought the guys here, like I told them, like, hey, like the team that we have is championship or bust. Like we're not gonna fall short. You know, and that was our mindset going into it.
Speaking of last year, Peyton brought it up. You guys actually went to the NIT tournament last year and beat Clemson. Then this year you turn around and you open the year up in a good non-conference. You played Alabama the first game of the year on the road. You played Purdue on the road. You played Penn State on the road. And you played Indiana really close on the road. I had a shot to win that there at the end. Now looking forward to the NCAA tournament, you're going to be seeing teams like that, presumably, obviously, in the first round, 2 rounds, whatever you guys end up going to. How much do you draw off that experience of playing these Power 6 schools and playing them well at that?
Again, our coaches scheduled. I think they scheduled like that on purpose. You know, I think they had it planned and in mind, like we were going to win this tournament. So getting us ready for those moments, it's definitely going to pay off. We're definitely going to have a run in us.
I have a point I want to mention up on that, and a point that I've been talking about these last couple of weeks. It's not just an experience factor when you play against those teams, especially when you go into the building, but when you go at Indiana and you only lose by 1 point, Indiana's obviously an historic program. They're a tough-ass place to play at. Assembly Hall gets rowdy. We all know that. But it's not just an experience level. I feel like it's a confidence booster as well. When you go into teams like Indiana and you lose by only 1 point, had a very good chance of winning the game, does that give you more confidence going into when you go into conference play that you can compete at a high level?
Did we lose him?
We might have lost him.
I think he froze up.
We might have lost him.
I think we froze him up there. We'll see if we can get him back here. But I like the answer so far. I like the answers, Peyton, of the confidence about we got a damn good team, and that it did put a chip on their shoulder from last year. Yeah, I think we lost him. I think we'll try to get Drew back here in just a minute. But speaking of that again, though, Peyton, I mean, you can tell the confidence. This is why, like, he put up 21 last night in the OVC title game, and you listen to him talk. He believes in his teammates. They believe in each other. They knew it wasn't a matter of if we can or can we do this. They went in this tournament this week thinking we're going to win this thing.
Yeah, and the one thing, like we talked about it last year about how they was warming up. There was a sense of like calmness when they were warming up that I noticed early on that, and then it showed because they came out and ended up jumping Little Rock early. So there's a sense of calmness. We have Drew back. Drew, you with us again?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the question I had, I'm gonna re-ask it again. You know, Josh mentioned the experience of going at these teams and playing them. It's not just an experience for me. I feel like it's a confidence booster. When you go at Indiana, at Assembly Hall, and you only lose by 1 point, had a very good chance of winning that game. Is that a confidence booster going into OVC play that not only can you compete, you can compete at a high level?
100%. You know, when you play a team like that historic, you know, you go into their building, you lose by 1. Like we really had a chance to win that game. Like, in the back of our minds, we're like, yeah, we can compete with anybody. We can take down anybody.
So going back to last night, obviously you dropped 21. Second half, not only were you scoring, I mean, you hit timely threes. Anytime Little Rocket seemingly would make a little push to get back in the game, it was you or Khalil that would hit a massive three to kind of quiet everything down a little bit. but you also had the challenge of guarding their best player, arguably, in KK Robinson. You were able to do it on both ends of the floor. Talk to us about your mindset. Not only were you relied on to have the ball in your hands, being the point guard, get everybody else involved, but also getting your shot. Then you had to turn around the other end of the floor and try to stop their best player. Talk to us about being a two-way player like that last night.
I have to give all the credit to my teammates, especially in those media timeouts. They are talking to me. They are telling me what I need to do. They're in my ear, so I don't have a chance to mentally get tired. It's all about mind games with yourself. And mentally, I was going to pick up the ball no matter what I had to do and just make his life difficult as much as I could.
I like it. So we got a couple more for you here, and then we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. I talked to you last night. We did a video with you last night briefly after the game, and I think one of the things I loved offensively that you guys, Coach Spradlin, had you guys do is obviously playing with Riley Minix. I mean, player of the year, tremendous player. That's got to be somebody fun to play with, right? He can do it all. But the two-man game that you and him went with, where it was the screen one way and then flip it back immediately to catch the defender basically lacking to get you to your right hand downhill. He could pick or pop, roll, whatever he wants to do in that situation. You guys carved Little Rock up in that. How fun is that to play in a situation in a two-man game with a guy like Riley Minix off that?
Man, it's fun. I don't think you can do any wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, with a guy like that, he just makes your life easy, And he puts so much pressure on the defense. So all I got to do is just make the right decision half the time, and then it is what it is at that point.
When he hit a couple, I think we counted 3 or 4, Peyton, where late in the shot clock, kind of mid-post back down, fade away off the glass. Like, honestly, we compared it to like Dirk Nowitzki style. When he's making plays like that, and I'm sure you've obviously seen it all year, when he makes plays like that late in the game, what do you say to him? Is there anything you can say to him? Be like, Jesus.
Man, the crazy thing is so I'm not shocked by it, but sometimes I forget during a game I got it back on defense because the shots he gets, man, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Peyton, you got one last thing, and then I'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, it's not even like Riley Minix hitting tough buzzer beater or shot clock shots like that. I mean, Drew hit a couple of threes, like deep threes, nothing but net. Didn't even touch the rim. At one point, I got a little funny story. The guy that's sitting next to us, his name's Isaac Bourne. He's with Mid-Major Madness. He follows us on Twitter. We was talking to him with the whole game. Had a lot of fun. Shout out to you, Isaac. Appreciate you for being so cool with us. He was right next to us, to my right, watching this game on media row. You hit 1 3. I think it was at the right wing, deep. 3, boom, nothing but net. You look right at him. I don't know if he was looking at him specifically, if you just staring just in the moment. You yelled boom, and this dude was like, me? It was so funny.
It was so funny, Drew. Like, because we were all sitting there, and I think you was maybe like your 3rd 3 and like a real big heater moment, and you were just like, boom, and he goes, me? I didn't do nothing.
So funny.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think I was looking at him. I think I understand why, but I was just excited, man. It was just,
dude, you could tell, man. It was funny because it did look like you were looking directly at him, and he had fun with it to his credit. He goes, me. Last thing, and Drew, we appreciate your time, my man.
Sure.
Last thing. So I know the player in you. You've been media trained. You're going to tell me when I ask you if there's somebody preference that you would like to play. You're going to tell me, we're just happy to be there. We'll prepare for anybody. We want to play. I get that. But our friends at makingthemadness.com, Jonathan Warner, does tremendous work. Bracketology always ranks real high in the bracket matrix. This morning's update, they have you guys as a 14 seed in the Midwest region playing 3-seeded Baylor. Now let's theorize a week from today, Selection Sunday comes out. That's the matchup. How do you feel about playing a team like a Baylor or one of those teams from these Power 6 conferences on that line, staring you down the barrel on a Thursday, Friday first round game?
We have no pressure. The pressure's all on them. We are going to take it to them, so they're going to have to really play. You know what I'm saying? Because we have nothing to lose. And
I love it.
Excited.
I love it. Last thing, if you had your preference, knowing how you guys play, you control tempo, but you can get up and down too. You don't have to name a team, but would you rather play a team that's balls to the wall, fast pace, high tempo, high possession, or would you more favor kind of a slow it, grind it out type of game in the first round?
I think we're gonna go slower pace. I think we're gonna bang with some dudes, and they're gonna have to feel us. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna make a statement.
Hold up. I got one more final question, and you can wrap it up, Josh. I want to ask you. We got next Sunday, a Selection Sunday. We all love Selection Sunday. You guys are the first team to punch your bid into March. From now on to then, what are you most excited about the process till this Sunday till next Sunday for Selection Sunday?
I will say getting the day off is going to be great. 3 days, man. It catches up to you. But just being in the moment, and just, man, not too many people get to do this. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it's just a blessing. It's just a blessing.
Well, you guys have punched your bid. We were there last night. Great to get a chat with you on the floor. Kind of help soak in a little bit of that celebration. I can't wait to watch you guys be drawn your name wherever you go, whatever the seed line is next week. I'm sure you can't wait for it as well. That'll be an exciting moment next Sunday. Drew, you've been awesome, my man. Best of luck moving forward into the tournament. We cannot wait to have you back on at some point. And congratulations, my friend. Send our love and congratulations to your team as well. And we'll be looking for you guys in that first round game. Congratulations once again from us here at ECB, and best of luck, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
That was Drew Thelwell of Morehead State. What a terrific young man. Great player. You can just tell, Peyton, in his energy and the answers he was giving that, I mean, he's right. He's right. Whoever they play in that first round, no matter the seed line, if they are a 14 or if whatever they are, they don't have the pressure. That's why this is so dangerous to play them. Because we talked about last night in the live game, post game or whatever, but they've got two dudes in Drew and Minix. You throw in a sniper with Khalil Thomas. You've got a couple veterans. They play a slower tempo, like he said. They can make shots. They're going to be, and they have no pressure.
No pressure.
Whoever draws them in that first round, if it's a Baylor or whoever, they better be ready to play or else they're going to get knocked off of Morehead State.
The scariest teams to play in March are the teams that have nothing to lose, and they have zero to lose. I loved his answers because it's so true. It goes back to what we've said last year. It goes back to what we said a couple of weeks ago. When we get into the big dance and the highest seed, and it's a close game with like under 4 minutes to go, the rims get tight, the pressure intensifies, and the crowd, who are they going to go with? They're not going to go with the higher seed. They're going to go with the lower seed. If Morehead State plays against Baylor, and it's a close game under 4 minutes, everybody in that building, not named Baylor fans, are going to be rooting and rooting for Morehead State. Like I am. I'm rooting for them. Unless they play Kansas in the first round, I am rooting for them to go far and to make some noise and be one of those Cinderella teams because they've got a 1-2 punch from Thelwell and Minix. They got Minix, who's averaging almost a double-double this season, which is ridiculous, 20 and 10. He's been incredible this year. And they've got good pieces around them. I mentioned in our postgame live, they got a really good balanced starting five. They've got shooting. They got defensive guys. They've got energy guys. They've got guys who are dogs who just want to go out there and compete. Doesn't matter who the team is. And his answers were beautifully executed, and I shout out to Drew Thelwell for that, and I appreciate him for coming on.
Peyton, let's talk about that game real quick because we were there live. Obviously, you know, that's a tournament special in my heart now. That's 2 years in a row we've been there live. Evansville's a cool place to be. Parking's easy. They got good food around the area. Ford Center is beautiful, and it got loud in there, even though it wasn't even close to capacity at all. It was loud. The atmosphere is fun. And we were treated to a good game. Like we talked about it with Drew at the start of this thing, Peyton. They jumped out and got up 21-4 on Little Rock. Little Rock rallies, gets it back within 3 points, even takes the lead in the second half. And then like Drew said, Coach Spradlin calms them down, said, hey, that's the best they got. They come back, and then once they got the lead back, they kind of kept Little Rock at arm's length. But it was an incredibly fun game. Minix with 26 points, Thelwell with 21, Khalil Thomas had 13. Jordan Lathan only had 6, but he hit 2 massive threes there in the first half. I thought defensively he was good. He helped him be an extra ball handler when Drew didn't have it. They've got pieces. That's a really good team. On the Little Rock end of things, Peyton, they couldn't get shots to fall, especially early. KK Robinson finished with 13. Bradley Douglas led him with 14. But Robinson, 6 of 16 from the floor. He took a lot of mid-range when he probably either should have got his head to the rim or maybe step back and shoot a three. But it was an incredible game. Morehead, though, again, they're so well balanced.
Couple of notes I want to mention about Little Rock that me and you talked about on our way home from the drive, the 2.5 hour drive from Evansville to where we live. I think what hurt Little Rock specifically in the first half was, and what specifically in the second half, after they made the run, the first 4 minutes of the game when Morehead State jumped them, and then the last 4 minutes of the game when Morehead pretty much jumped them again and really pulled out after Little Rock came back and got the win or got the lead back. The two biggest things for me is why I thought Little Rock kind of messed up in the game planning is, one, offensively. They kept pitting Mekhi Mitchell in the paint. Mitchell, excuse me. They kept pitting him in the paint, giving him the ball, and he's not a passer. And anytime they was trying to run these flex offense, these flex cunts down low, Morehead State did a great job of just sagging off completely off him because he's not an offensive guy. He's a big body who's there to do some screens, and he could do that pretty well, but they were not pitting him in screeners action. They were giving him the ball in the paint, and whoever was guarding him completely sagged off and just completely just guarded all the cuts, and the offense looked very stagnant. There was not a lot of space around in the offensive game, and that's why a lot of those shots, that's why they had to pull up from mid-range. They couldn't get to the rim like they wanted to. That's why KK Robinson couldn't get to the line like he wanted to. He had to pull up in the mid-range because they were sagging off every time they gave Mitchell the ball down low in the paint. So I thought that's one mistake of game planning wise for Little Rock. Another one, I really thought they should have targeted Jameer Chaplin more. I mean, this kid, he really jump-started their run in the first half after they went down 28 or 21-4. He got going, hit a couple jump shots, got to the rim. He's like 6'6", 6'5". He has good length to him. He's athletic. He can hit a jumper, mid-range jumper, and get to the rim. I really thought he had 11 points this game, 5-11 from the field. I really thought they messed up not giving him the ball more in the second half.
I completely agree with all that you said, but congratulations, Morehead State. I'm not just saying this because we've seen them and we just talked to Drew. We talked about this with Isaac last night as the game was progressing and it was obvious Morehead was going to win. They're going to be a tough matchup for whoever they play. They're going to be a tough matchup. They've got the dudes that's capable to win a game or maybe two, depends on what happens with the brackets, but that's a good team. I mean, that was a tremendous interview. But let's move on, Peyton. The game we kind of alluded to that ended shortly before we got on here and started today's show. Arch Madness did not disappoint again for the 20th year in a row down there in St. Louis. You had the 1 seed Indiana State in the Missouri Valley Conference playing the 2-seeded Drake. And it was Drake, the Bulldogs, going back to back. They went back to back in our Missouri Valley Conference championships. Tucker DeVries, 27 points. Atten Wright, 17. Darnell Brody, 17. Drake got up as many as 16 points with about 8 minutes to go in this game. Indiana State countered with a 10-0 run to get it back to 6. Countered some more, got it down even closer. And then they kind of went cold. They had a late turnover that killed them. Drake made their free throws, hit some big shots down the stretch. Drake wins 84-80 to win another Missouri Valley Conference tournament championship and to clinch the automatic bid coming from the Missouri Valley. Peyton, Drake's in the tournament. I'm begging for the committee to do the right thing and put Indiana State in this NCAA tournament.
I am telling you right now, when that bracket comes out next Sunday, if Virginia is in and Indiana State isn't, who the hell cares if Virginia's resident? It just showed, who gives I'm not going to get into that rankings. I'll completely exclude that. I'm not going to get into all that. But let's talk about the teams that we want to see in the tournament. There's not a team that I want to see more in the tournament than Indiana State. Take Virginia out, put Indiana State in. Take Iowa out, put Indiana State in. Take Oklahoma out, put Indiana State in. They play a fun offense. They've got one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Exciting players in the country, and Robbie Avila. They've got they're nationally loved around the whole universe, around the whole college basketball world. They are nationally loved. Everybody loves this team. Everybody wants to see this team in March. They want to see them dancing. Do the right thing. They won the MVC. MVC's not a bad league at all. They won the MVC. Them and Drake was the class of the field, and although I picked Drake to win this game, I knew it was going to be close. I knew Indiana State had a good enough team to win. Put them in the tournament, please and thank you.
Honestly, this game came down to the 3-point line. Indiana State was 11th coming into today, 3-point shooting, around 38%. They go 7 of 24 for 29%. Drake, you talk about efficient from beyond the arc, 11 of 18 for 61% from three. Peyton, that's all you need to know about this game. Drake hit them, Indiana State didn't, and Drake's moving on to the NCAA tournament.
The two difference makers, obviously, coming into this game, Robbie Avila for Indiana State and Tucker DeVries was going to get the most love out of this one. That was the matchup everybody was looking for. And although Tucker DeVries definitely got the better game of this matchup, he had 27 points in this one, 11 to 19 from the field, 4 or 5 from the 3-point line. Very efficient night out of him. He's a great player. He was exciting to watch last year, and this year he just keeps on progressing as a scorer. So big shout out to him. But the guy I want to talk about who really made some big plays late down the stretch was Darnell Brody. He had some big moments then. He's the one who, when it was 81-78 or 82-78 or something like that, he's the one, they gave him the ball, and instead of trying to force a pass to Tucker DeVries, he just attacked Robbie Avila and got to the rim and finished it up. I don't know if he got an 8-1, but I know he finished it. He had some big plays. They had a tough time, specifically in that second half, handling Darnell Brody down low. So I think those guys, Darnell Brody and Tucker DeVries, really shine in this matchup.
Listen, I'm going to do it again. I picked Drake last year as a 5-12. I had him beating Miami. Miami goes on to the Final Four. Wherever Drake falls, looking here on makingthemadness.com, he had Indiana State in, which makes sense, but he had Indiana State as a 12. Let's assume Drake takes that 12 now. They play a 5 Texas Tech in this theoretical bracket from Jonathan Warner. Are you telling me, and I know Tech is a good defensive team, they got dudes who can score, but you don't think for 1 minute Drake can't beat them? Look at the 5 line. Let's say there are 12 regardless. The 5 line currently, according to makingthemadness.com, Texas Tech, South Carolina, BYU, Utah State. The only one that I think that would really give them fits is South Carolina because of the style of play and how physical they are may overwhelm Drake. But they can compete and beat Texas Tech. They can beat BYU. It'll be the first one to hit 15 threes in that one. And then Utah State, they can beat them. So, again, kind of like we talked about Morehead State, whoever draws Drake in this first round of the NCAA tournament better pack a lunch because I think it's an upset waiting to happen.
Yep, obviously it's all matchup dependent, and I agree. I always love picking 12 over 5s, and I was with you last year. Last year I had Drake beating Miami, and it ended up not happening. But, this team, they're well coached. Darren DeVries has done a great job coaching this team up. He's one of the best mid-major coaches in the country, and Tucker DeVries is one of the best mid-major players in the country as well. They've got multiple guys that can score and that can defend at a pretty high level. It just can they hit enough shots in March to really upset a team, and if they play a team like BYU, man, that game would be very exciting to watch, and I'd be all for that matchup.
Let's move on to the game of the day as far as entertainment value goes. Peyton, we were down in Evansville already. We were watching the start of this as we were getting into town. We watched some of the first half in the vehicle because it was a little too early to go in the Ford Center. We went down to the restaurant down the way from the Ford Center, watched the rest of the first half. Then we went back to the car before we went into the building. And we're talking about Kentucky went into Knoxville, got their 5th win in a row, 7 of the last 8. They are one buzzer beater away from being on an 8-game win streak. They're playing as well as anybody in the nation right now. And they're learning how to play defense in key moments. Kentucky beats Tennessee 85-81 on senior day in Knoxville, a team that's battling for a 1 seed that had already clinched the SEC regular season crown in the midweek we talked about, and that had won 7 in a row. What an incredible college basketball game this was from both teams.
I don't even know where to start. For both teams. This game was just so exciting, specific in the second half. Kentucky did get up to an 11-point lead in the first half, and then Dalton Knecht hit some big shots, and they cut it down to 33-29 at halftime. But, man, this game was just so exciting. You had big-time shots hit by both teams. This was a 2v2 game in the second half. This was Reed Shepherd and Antonio Reeves versus Dalton Knecht and Zakai Ziegler in the second half. I'm still mind blown. Like, I need to go back and watch this game and it's entirely because we were watching in the car and just turn my speakers all the way up and let's blow my eardrums out because I know Thompson Bowling Arena was electric in this one. And Kentucky, they tried their best to give it up. They had like a 10-point lead. A 10-point lead with like under a minute to go. They had 3 straight turnovers. Dalton connected the big 3. Then they got fouled and won to Kai Ziegler. And they had every chance in the world. They were up 84-81 with like under 10 seconds to go, something like that. Kentucky gets a 10-second violation call on them, which, by the way,
they had a timeout.
Yeah, they had a timeout. But by the way, in this game, I think this is the first time in a long-ass time I've seen a 5-second called.
Yeah.
And a 10-second called in the same game. We never see them, and they got called in the exact same game. Josiah Jordan James had a chance, a wide-open 3 in the left wing to tie the game up, make it 84-84. And he just – if he would have took a little bit off of it was a little too strong, he would have made that. And if the game goes in overtime, Tennessee wins this game.
I agree. I agree 100%. We talked about it in real time, that ending there, if it would have went into overtime, the momentum's on Tennessee side, and they would have probably won. But they didn't. Rob Dillingham gets fouled, misses the first free throw, but it was a 2-shot foul. He makes the second one. And they clinch the game. They make a stop. They clinch the game. Peyton, let's talk about Kentucky, and then we'll move to Tennessee. Antonio Reeves, 27 again. This is like his 6th or 7th or 8th game in a row, or whatever it is.
7 straight 20-point game.
I mean, that's crazy. He's basically been, and I think I heard his stat this morning. Kentucky's played 10 true road games. In 8 of those 10, he's had at least 15 points. In like 6 of those 10, he's had 20. Like, if it wasn't for Dalton Connect, Antonio Reeves is probably the SEC Player of the Year. And I think he's made this way closer than maybe people thought it ever would be back in January. 27, Peyton. He hit 3 threes. He went 3 of 5 from 3. He goes 8 of 16 from the floor, shoots 50% from the floor. And then when you talk about Reed Sheppard, 27 as well, 7 of 10 from 3. And how many of them were just daggers and transition pulling up, saucing Santiago Vescovi step backs, getting Zakai Ziegler up in the air late in the shot clock, burying him. Like, he's unbelievable when he gets turned on. And then we got to give love to Justin Edwards. 16 points, 4 of 7 from 3 from Justin Edwards. Hit 3 of them in the first half, 3 of them back to back to back. His development has not only made himself good again, like kind of where we thought he would be in the preseason, but him playing this well, not only on offensive end and shooting the ball with extreme confidence, but defensively, he's guarding his man a hell of a lot better. You're getting good Justin Edwards to mix in with these quadruple of the talented guards. If Kentucky gets anything from their bigs, Ugonna Onyenso, he had 4 blocks. He played a really good game, 6 rebounds, no points. They got 0 points from their 3 big men. But if they can just get something from the bigs, the way these guards and Justin Edwards are playing right now, Peyton, you may be right what you said on Bank on it. You may be right.
The individual shot making out of Kentucky this year is, I don't know how to put it into words, because they have like 4 or 5 dudes that can go get you a bucket in multitude different ways. Obviously, Reed Sheppard is just flat out amazing. Who would have thought coming into this year? Like, he was the least talked about freshman in this class. You talked about Justin Edwards. He was supposed to be a lottery pick. You talked about Rob Dillingham and his shot shooting ability, which obviously lived up to his expectations. You talked about DJ Wagner's ability to create and get to the rim. He was probably the least talked about freshman, and now he's the most talked about freshman, not in Kentucky, not in the SEC, but the country, period. He's got to be SEC Freshman of the Year. Not SEC Freshman of the Year. He's got to be the Freshman of the Year, period. Like, who's been better than him? Like, when the times come, and yeah, he can make some uncharacteristic type of plays. He had that one play, I think, with a 10-second violation, he threw it away. at one point. Like, he has some of those moments as a freshman does, especially late in the year. But man, like, he's so lethal offensively that you cannot get, especially if it's late in the shot clock, you cannot give him any amount of space whatsoever where he's going to fire. And 99% of the time, I think the son of a bitch is going in. Like, he's just that good.
Yeah.
They have so many lethal guys that can just go out there and just hit a shot, whether it's late in the shot clock, early, like, it doesn't matter. Like, on the road, at home, neutral site, like, they've got so many guys that be able to create and get some buckets that it just, I said it last week, if Kentucky goes into Thompson Bowling Arena and beats Tennessee, they should have won this game by double digits. They should have won this game by 10 plus. If obviously some mistakes late in the game allowed Tennessee to have a chance. This team is national championship good. Like, they've had 2 peaks this season, by the way. They peaked against North Carolina in the CBS Sports Classic when they beat them. And then they had a downfall. And now they've peaked again. Like, which team in the country has had 2 peaks, first half of the season and the second half of the season? They remind me so much of last year's UConn team. Go back to last year. UConn peaked early. They had an incredible regular season. They went on, I don't know if they won the PK 85 or whatever, but I know they've beat
they
some
did.
really
They
good
didn't
teams.
lose a non-conference game.
They didn't lose a non-conference game. And then they got to conference play, kind of went downhill a little bit. And then they ramped it back up once the clock hit February, and they ended up winning the national championship. I think Kentucky is really freaking good. They just need 3 stops in a row, and they got it in this game, Josh.
Well, and here's the thing. The first game, we talked a lot about it. Tennessee never trailed. They punked Kentucky. Kentucky came out ready for a fight yesterday. They were physical, man. They were physical, and I think it threw Tennessee off course. They thought probably, again, that they were going to punk them around, and Kentucky threw the first haymaker and kept throwing the haymakers, and they were physical. They got defensively. They got stops when needed. I mean, Tennessee's got a good offense this year, and they held them to 81 points, and Kentucky still got 85 against a top 3 defense in college basketball. And then I see some Tennessee fans just like, I guess, trying to cope in their mind, like, well, they hit 15 threes. They shot 15 to 29 from 3, 51, almost 52%. That won't happen again. Wait, what? Like, you do realize Kentucky shoots 41% from 3 and leads the nation in 3-point shooting, right? We've seen them multiple times this year hit 13, 14, 15 or more threes. So, yes, it absolutely can happen again. They just buried you from 3 last night. Let's talk Tennessee real quick, so we got to move on. The Vols they already clinched the SEC. This doesn't hurt them. This was a quad 1 loss. It doesn't hurt them. Maybe it hurts them to get a 1 seed, but it doesn't hurt them in the overall picture. I mean, Dalton Knecht goes for 40. It wasn't a very efficient 40. Like, he took 29 shots to get 40 points. But he was on such a heater. I think you could tell there late in the game, hit a couple open threes again that he had been making, that he left him short. I think legs got into him a little bit. He played 36 minutes. Wasn't a very efficient 40 again, like I said, off 29 shots, but it's still 40. And then they got 17 points and 9 assists from Zakai Ziegler. They just didn't get much for anybody else. Like, Jonas Adu had 11. Josiah Jordan-James had 8, when in the first match he had like 25. I mean, literally nothing from Vescovi, 2 from Meshack, 2 from Jordan Gainey, and 1 from Toby Awaka. If I'm Tennessee, it's almost like Jekyll and Hyde. On one part, it's like, all right, we didn't have really nothing to play for. I guess the 1 seed, we lost. It was Kentucky, whatever. You can rationalize it. But on the other end, you had 40 from Dalton Knecht. You had 17 and 9 from Zakai Ziegler, and you still lost by 4. And then for large parts of the second half, you were down by 11, 12, 13, 14 points. So it's kind of like on one end, it's not too bad. On the other end, it's like, damn, we got this incredible performances from 2 dudes, and we still lost. Peyton, if you're Tennessee, how are you feeling?
I still feel like they can go to the Final Four.
Yeah,
Let's look at his 2 reasons why. And I'll say one of them for him in a minute. This is one I really want to talk about, because I heard some people on Twitter saying, like, potential chance, like, oh, Tennessee's overrated. Stop that. Look at the last look at the last 4 games. Look who they've played. They played against Auburn, really good team. They played at Alabama, one of the best offensive teams in the country. They played at South Carolina, who already beat them this year in a tough place to play. Beat them. They were on like an 7-game winning streak. And guess what? Who had the end of the season on? They had to end on the season against one of the hottest teams in the country in Kentucky. That is 4 tough-ass teams to play in your last 4 regular season games, and they went 3-1 in those games, including 2 away games against Bama and South Carolina. Tennessee is really freaking good. They have a better offense than usual than they have been in the last 5 years. They've had the same defense as they've had in the last 5 years. And it's time to have this conversation. I don't know if we briefly mentioned it last Sunday. Is Dalton Knecht the best player in the country?
I think so. And
because I think
he's not the most dominant. Edie's by far the most dominant. But best player? Yeah, I think it's Dalton Knecht. Because he's 6'6". He's learned how to defend under Rick Barnes. And he's got this incredible shot making in the tournament that he literally can go get you 40, 45 to win you a tournament game.
Yes.
The ball's in his hands.
Yep. Absolutely. He's going to make more plays for Tennessee than what Zach Edey is going to make for Purdue, like you just mentioned, because he's going to have the ball in his hands, and he's 6'6". He can shoot over guys and be at that level. He can post you up. He can get to the rim and finish, and he's a tough kid. Like, he's got some shit to him. Like, he's a dog. Like, he's the type of kid that can go in a Shabazz Napier type of run like they did in 2014 to go on to win the national championship. I still believe in this Tennessee squad. Forget this one game. Like, Kentucky had an incredible performance. Yeah, they hit 15 threes, but look at the guys like Kentucky has on their roster. Like, there's not many teams in the country right now that could stop Kentucky from hitting 15 threes, and you still only lost this game by 4. So I'd keep that in mind. Tennessee's really freaking good, and I hope we'll talk about the SEC tournament later, but let's have a round 3. Let's have the grudge match in the SEC championship game in Nashville, baby. Like, that's what I want you to see.
I'm 100% with you there, man. Let's move on. North Carolina went into the into Cameron Indoor Stadium last night with a chance. They had already earlier in the week clinched at least a share of the ACC championship in the regular season. A win last night would have gave them the outright ACC title, and they go into the Cameron Indoor Stadium against their hostile rival and come out victorious to complete the season sweep over Duke. North Carolina wins 84-79. Cormac Ryan, the Notre Dame transfer, 31 points, 6 of 8 from 3, led the way. Harrison Ingram had 14. Peyton, if you would have told me that Duke would have held RJ Davis to 9 points on 4 of 12 shooting and Armando Bacot to 9 points, 8 rebounds, I thought Duke would have ran him out of the building.
Yeah, I said last Sunday that Cormac Ryan was going to have a good game. But I also thought Armando Bacot was going to have a double-double in this game. Like, I thought Duke was going to have a hard time stopping him in the paint. And they did a pretty good job of doing that, holding him to 9 points, holding RJ Davis to 9 points. Like, this is really a two-man show for North Carolina. And it wasn't the two guys that you would think of like it has been all season long. Like, this was the Cormac Ryan and Harrison Ingram show. Harrison Ingram had 14 points in this game. Boy, has he been great this season. Like, he's been a difference maker for this team this year. Like, with his ability to get to the rim and his sharpshooting ability as well from outside of 3, like, he's been an incredible difference maker for North Carolina this year. And as far as this game goes, there's a couple things I want to mention. The Kyle Filipowski trip. We were going to get to it. Yeah. We talked about it when the whole Wake Forest Stockholm shit happened, and I mentioned my opinions on it, and my opinions still stay true to this day. I defended Kyle Filipowski in a way. When that happened, I am not defending him at any point in this scenario because what he did was like, that's ridiculous. Like, why? I get it's typical Duke behavior. Grayson Allen did it for so many times. J.J. Redick and Christian Laettner, 2 of the most hated players in college basketball history. It's just, I don't understand, like, what he's doing, like, why he thought that was a good idea. That's one thing. Like, that was a dirty play. Like, that was a bitch move. He should have got a technical for that. I don't know if he did. I don't know if they went back to the monitor and looked at that. But he should have got a flagrant for that. That is ridiculous, and it really puts your team in a bad light, which they don't really give a shit because they do. That's what they do.
They're the heels. Ironically, North Carolina's the heels, but you know what I'm saying.
They're the actual heels.
Listen, Duke's big 4 played well, like scoring-wise. Tyrese Proctor had 14, Jeremy Roach 13, McCain continues his heater, 19. Filipowski, he had 23. They got absolutely nothing from anybody else. Mark Mitchell had 3. Ryan Young, Sean Stewart had 0, and then TJ Powers 7. He did give him a little bench production and only 4 minutes of play. I still think Duke's a good team, and they had been playing extremely well leading into this game, following that Wake Forest loss a couple weeks ago. But they're another one of these teams that we're going to talk about here coming up that they're not a deep team. They play 8 basically, and really 7 because Power doesn't play big minutes. They play 8, and I'm worried about their depth. They've got such a good nucleus, like starting 5 and a really good 4. But if they get in the tournament and get in some foul trouble or something else happens, and you have to go to that bench and rely on like a Ryan Young to fill in for Kyle Filipowski, he'll be good defensively and rebounding, setting screens, but he's not an offensive threat. So you don't have to guard him. Kind of like we seen at Morehead last night when they defended Mikal Mitchell on Little Rock. You don't have to guard him. Sean Stewart's a 6'9" freshman who doesn't log a whole lot of minutes. You don't really have to guard him too much. If you can shut down Duke's guards, then you have a very good shot at knocking them out of the tournament. You can let Filipowski go off, but if you can shut down Proctor, Roach, and McCain, Duke's very beatable. What are your feelings on Duke as we head into the tournament?
I don't know if I can trust Duke in the tournament. They have a lot of talent. We all know that. They have a lot of talent and a little bit more experience than what they were last year. But the couple of notes that you've already mentioned up. First of all, the depth is not as good. Like if Ryan Young's on the floor, you can just go at him and
just sagging her the rim.
Yeah, like you don't have to guard him. You don't, because he's not capable of hitting outside shots. Like he's not a stretch big like a Kyle Filipowski is, and he's not really that good at like posting up either. Like he's basically just another big body to go out there and set some screens and collect some space for you. Like he's not a good option to bring off the bench. And if that's the guy you're bringing off the bench that's going to do something for you, like you're already in a tough situation as it is. Like I believe that this Duke team can definitely go out depending on matchups in the first round. Like if they don't hit shots, and they hit shots in this game, they shot 39% from 3 and they've been shooting like 37% on 3 for the year. Like if their guards aren't having a good game and Filipowski's probably going to do what he's been doing all season long, I tend to believe that Duke is not as good as team as everybody thinks they are. They've won 3 in a row, but look at the teams that they've played. They have not really faced good teams. They beat the shit out of Louisville. Virginia is not a fun team to watch. Like nobody really gives a shit about Virginia, and they beat NC State on the road, which is a good win. But other than that, they got swept by North Carolina this year. You gave up 84 points in your own building when RJ Davis and Armando Bacot was held to 18 points total, and you forced North Carolina to 13 turnovers. That's a game that Duke should win 9 times out of 10, and they didn't.
And they were down 15 at one point. Peyton, last point. There's this battle for that final 1 seed. We talked about with Tennessee losing. They probably dropped off of that back to a 2 line. Arizona, we're going to talk about them here in just a minute. They lost. North Carolina, in my opinion, has got to be, as of right now, they've got to be that 4th number 1 seed. Do you agree or disagree?
It's got to be them. With Arizona losing, it pretty much almost clinched that number 1 seed for North Carolina.
For now. Things could change. Let's move on to the Big 12, where the number 1 team in the nation, AP and the ECB polls. Houston trying to avenge their loss. They've already clinched the Big 12 championship, so yesterday didn't matter much for that. They're probably going to clinch the overall number 1 seed, more than likely. And, Kansas beat them back on February 3rd. Kansas beat them in Allen Fieldhouse 78-65. Since then, Houston's reeled off 8 in a row heading into last night. They made it 9 in a row. Peyton, I'll let you discuss this because Houston blew them out. It wasn't even close at the beginning of the game. Houston 76, Kansas 46, and Kansas, we don't know the extent of the injury. All Bill Self said is that he dislocated his shoulder, popped it back in. Normally, if you dislocate a shoulder, you're done for a while. Even if you can play, it's not effective. Hunter Dickinson, that being. Kansas got ran out the building. Things are going from bad to worse right now for the Jayhawks. Talk to me about it because Houston made a huge statement yesterday.
I'm not even going to pull up stats. There's just no point because Houston came out this game and they were up like 15-3 with like 2 minutes in, and they just never looked bad. Like you asked me when we was walking back to the car after the OVC Championship, like, did you expect this to happen? And when I told you yes, like you were shell shocked because you didn't think.
Yeah, I didn't think.
But like, if you just go back to last Sunday, like, look at my demeanor. I 100% expected this to happen. Is because when you asked me who was going to win, I said Houston, and I wasn't like a marketing ploy to be funny. Like that was actually like my actual thought process. Like Houston, go ahead, Trev, because it wasn't going to be a game, and I knew it last Sunday, and I knew it or last Thursday whenever we recorded.
Thursday,
Thursday. Excuse me. Like I knew it then. Like Houston, like the revenge game means something. Kelvin Sampson, all those boys, they had a point to prove. They had a statement that they wanted to make, and boy, did they ever do it. 30-point ass whooping, pretty much. This is the biggest ass whooping that Kansas has took since like 2002 when Oklahoma State beat the living shit out of us, like early 2000s. Like this has been over like almost 25 years ago, this big of an ass whooping. Like Houston's a really good team. Defensively, they're great. Offensively, they did what they needed to do. I still have questions on that area, but Kansas, like, they have no depth. Nick Timberlake looked completely lost out there, and it just shows like you cannot trust him to be the guy for you offensively. Like he's not ready for this type of level, and he's going to have to be if he wants to compete. Johnny Fairley has came back down to earth after having a great 3-week stretch where he looked just amazing, shooting like over 45% from three, looked like a world beater. He's came back down to earth a little bit. DeJuan Harris is out there trying his best, but like he's not a prolific scorer. Like
he had 3 points. I begged for him on Thursday to be a scorer in this game. He had 3 points, Peyton. He took 2 shots. Like, he's got to, especially with these injuries mounting up, he's got to look to help out. Like, we said it when he did it to Kentucky and he hit all them threes. Like, he's not going to do that. Like, he'll probably never do that again. But he's got to be that aggressive mindset to go try and score to help the team to give at least another scoring threat. Peyton, these injuries are mounting up. Kevin McCullough is still not back to 100%. He only played 15 minutes in this game. He only had 1 foul, so what because of foul trouble. He only played 15 minutes. Dickinson now, we don't know the full extent. If you lose those two, or like let's say McCullough is only like 70%, that's not good enough. And if Dickinson's only like 50%, that leaves you relying on DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Johnny Furphy to try to carry you through the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament. I don't want to do that. I'm not doing this just to rub it into you, but the way Kansas is playing, they've lost, 3 of their last 5 to end the regular season?
The last 10 games, they've went 4-5.
I would bet against Kansas to not make it out of the first week in the NCAA tournament as of this moment. 3 of 21 from three-point shooting. They're not a great three-point shooting team. Injuries are stacking up. I don't see – if Bill Self can get this team back to a Sweet 16 in its current state, it solidifies he's the best coach of college basketball because this is going to be a tall mountain to climb. They may win a first-round game because they're still going to be like a 3 or 4 seed, but they get a second-round matchup against like a 5 or a 6. It's going to be somebody tough, and I just don't think Kansas is making out the first weekend right now.
I don't either. I don't have confidence going into this tournament. The Big 12 tournament starts on Tuesday. Make sure you check into houseenterprise.com because I'll have a Big 12 media guide coming out. Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, probably tomorrow. Like I'm almost done. I was up late last night finishing it up. So it'll probably come out tomorrow and I'll talk about Kansas and then their injury woes and why I think it's best for them heading into the Big 12 tournament. And it's just the fact is, like, we're going to be hobbled. Like, we're going to have injuries. Like, Kevin McCullough these last 3 weeks has had a reoccurring knee issue, a knee bruise, which isn't going to magically be fixed in a week and a half. Like, it's been struggling city for him. He did not play at all in the second half after they pretty much just whooped our ass for full 40 minutes. Bill Self decided to set him, which I think was a smart move because that game absolutely meant nothing to us at that point in time. We was already beat. And with the Hunter Dickinson news, it's not looking good. If he's not back for the first round, I mean, we're going to be like a 3 or 4 seed, probably a 4 seed. That's upset matchup waiting to happen, depending on who it is. So I'm not confident. Sucks, but we'll see how it goes. Bill Self, I still believe he's the best coach in the country, but this is a tall task for him to overcome. Like, you can do it with like X's and O's, but like when you have injury problems, it really puts you a couple steps behind, and I don't know how he's going to pull it out.
It's unfortunate. Last thing on Houston, Peyton, obviously, I think they are going to be the overall number 1 seed, regardless if they win the Big 12 tournament or they get upset early. I think they're going to be the overall number 1 seed more than likely. 28-3. Everybody asked, could they do it coming in from the American to the best conference college basketball? They've answered that pretty resoundingly. They've got a really good backcourt, experienced guys, big guys up front that know how to play. That if you're not used and prepared to that blitz into the ball screen, they're going to mess your world up defensively. They're the number 1 rated defense in college basketball. I'm still thinking the offense, it's 11th. We've talked about this. I think it's overblown because it's just adjusted efficiency. But I will say, I think they have as good a shot as anybody to cut the nets down in Phoenix. But I also say this as well. They hit 11 threes last night. 11 of 29 for 37, we'll round it up 38%. That's a really good mark for a team who shoots 34%. But I think to beat Houston in the tournament, make them a three-point shooting team. Make them take 29, 30 threes a game in this NCAA tournament. Pack it in. Don't allow driving lines and dare Jamal Sheed, LJ Cryer, Juwan Roberts, and all these guys to try to beat you from 3. Because I think that if you do that, there's better likelihood of beating them in the NCAA tournament. Just don't give them driving lanes, basically. Let's talk real quick about that USC upset over Arizona. Arizona, Peyton, I'm not going to say they're fraudulent because that's not fair. They're 24-7. They're still in the discussion for a 1 seed. At worst, they're probably going to be a 2. But this is, again, you look at their losses. All right, Purdue's not a bad loss at all. Florida Atlantic's not really a bad loss. Stanford, bad loss. Washington State swept them. They're much better, so it's not a bad loss. Oregon State's a bad loss, and the way USC's been this year, that's a bad loss. Like, that's, 5 of their 7 that are bad losses? Or at least 4 of the 7. And they got blown out in a way. USC beat them 78-65. Kashad Johnson had 17. Omar Ballo had 17. That was the only 2 in double figure scoring. DJ Rodman, Kobe Johnson had 19. Isaiah Collier had 16. Boogie Ellis only had 5, and they still won by 13. So we're looking at Arizona. I think, depending on matchup, I could see them not making it out the first weekend again. Because they don't have, like we talk about some of these teams like Adult Connect or Kentucky's got them or whoever, Purdue has got these end-of-the-game closers that if you need a bucket, you got dudes who can go get you a bucket. Arizona's trusting in who? Caleb Love to do that? And we know he can, but we also know he can shoot you out of a game. He had 2 points last night. So I'm so iffy on Arizona. They have the talent to make a Final Four, but they also can get knocked out in that first weekend. Your thoughts on USC's upset?
Well, hats off to USC. They really needed a win like this out in the Pac-12 tournament time. As far as Arizona goes, I mean, you only scored 65 points, and it's not like USC is just a really good defensive team because they're not. You only scored 65 points. Caleb Love had 2 points this game, 1 of 10 from the field, not efficient whatsoever. A typical Caleb Love type of performance out of him, trying too much. Also 5 turnovers, by the way. He had more turnovers than he did points. That's like not a good sign out of him whatsoever. But it doesn't necessarily surprise me. As far as this team goes into March, I'm completely off on this team, honestly. Like, I don't trust in them whatsoever. I don't think they'll get past the first weekend depending on matchups. And the reason is because defensively, although if you look at KenPom, they're a top 20 defensive team, that stat gets overblown because of the conference they play in. They are not playing against good competition. They are not playing against good competition. They're not playing against good offensive teams. Like, that stat gets overblown, and it's just people need to start and realize that like they're not playing good competition. So of course their defense is going to hold up and look like ward beaters and be a top 20 defense. But the fact is they're not a top 20 defense. I don't even know if they're a top 75 defense in the country. Like, they gave up so many points, 78 points out of USC when Boogie Ellis only scored 5 points. Their best player didn't even play well, and you still almost gave up 80 points to them. Like, it's just, I don't trust in their defense. I don't trust in their guards. I like Kellen Boswell, but I don't think he's going to be the guy for them.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm not trying to pull a Gottlieb, but I want to ask you this because we do have to move on. You brought up the guards, which is a good segue. I was going to ask you this anyways. Do you trust Kentucky guards in March? It's a simple yes or no.
Yes.
Do you trust Purdue guards?
Yes.
Do you trust Houston guards?
Yes.
What about North Carolina?
Yes.
Tennessee?
Yes.
Arizona?
Hell no.
That's the difference. Guards win you championships in March, and we cannot trust Caleb Love, Kylan Boswell, whoever, because they're so up and down, and they can win you a game, but they could damn sure lose you one too. And that's the reason why I'm sellers on Arizona to make a Final Four. Let's move on, Peyton. We had a couple other conference championships bids being punched. I want to just discuss this real quick. Let's go to the Big South. Longwood took out the 1 seed or High Point the other night during the conference championship against UNC Asheville, who won the conference tournament championship last year behind Drew Pember. And they played them today in the final. Asheville trying to go back-to-back. Longwood, the 3 seed, absolutely smashed UNC Asheville 85-59 to go to another NCAA tournament. Peyton, your thoughts on Longwood knocking the 1 and 2 seed out en route to winning the Big South Tournament Championship and punching their bid?
Yeah, when you told me that they were up like almost 25 points, like I thought you were crazy. Because I mean, the game against High Point, they ended up winning that one. High Point basically laid an egg, and I give credit to Longwood. They played really fucking well in that game and ended up winning that one. But I really thought UNC Asheville, especially Drew Pember in that semifinal game, had a triple-double. I thought UNC Asheville was going to come in there and just do what Longwood did to them, and it didn't come out that way. Longwood played a great game. They got it done, and I'm knocking the top 2 seeds out of the tournament. And just the beauty of March, like once you get into these conference tournaments, it doesn't matter really what you do in the regular season. It does to an extent for seeding wise and who you're going to face. But anybody has a puncher's chance of going out there and winning that thing. And they came out on top. Hats off to them. They played 2 great games and they were on and they got it done. Hats off to Longwood.
Let's move on to the ASUN Tournament Championship. It was wild. We talked about on Thursday. We had all the upsets, but at the end of the day, it came down to the 2 seed Stetson playing the 4 seed Austin Peay for the right to go to the NCAA tournament and call themselves Atlantic Sun champions. Incredibly high scoring affair. Stetson 94, Austin Peay 91. How about the junior Jalen Blackman? 43 points in a championship game that actually Austin Peay led at the end of the first half at one point, 37-28. 43 in a title-clinching game is insane. Stefan Swinson, who saved Stetson's ass the other night with back-to-back threes to make sure Jacksonville didn't knock him out, he had 13. But Peyton, Stetson wins the ASUN championship, punches their bid to the big dance behind Jalen Blackman's 43 points.
I mean, what can you say, man? Like I picked Stetson to win this tournament just because I previewed them in the magazine, and I knew Stefan Switzer was just a dog. And although he had a decent game, 13-5 in this one, I mean, Jalen Blackman, 43 points in a exciting game that's going to punch your ticket into March, like. Holy shit. That's all I got to say. I mean, hats off to Stetson. Austin Peay played as good a game they possibly could. Just you didn't have Jalen Blackman on your squad, and Stetson did.
That's insane. Congratulations to all the bid punchers today. I mean, that's an incredible feeling. We talked to Drew Thelwell about it, the experience. He said he was emotional, him and his teammates. You know Stetson. You know, Longwood, all these guys and gals around the team are experiencing that. So congratulations to everybody who is going to the big dance. Peyton, let's turn our attention, though, to this upcoming week. This upcoming week, the rest of the major conferences and conferences, period, around college basketball will be starting their tournaments, their conference tournaments, starting either on Tuesday or Wednesday at some point, depending on how your format lays. Let's start with the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament that will begin first round action on Tuesday, March 12th. Excuse me. I had something in my throat there. And the bracket looks like this. You have 12-seeded Notre Dame playing 13-seeded Georgia Tech. English is hard, I swear. Then you have also first round action, 10-seeded North Carolina State playing 15-seeded Louisville. And then the nightcapper on Tuesday is 11-seeded Boston College playing 14-seeded Miami. That's crazy. They finished 14th. You look at the teams that got the top 4 seeds, got the double bye to Thursday. It's North Carolina is the 1, Duke 2, Virginia 3, Pitt 4. Peyton, when you look at this conference tournament, anything intriguing potentially if these teams win? Matchups you're looking for? Just what are you looking at from the ACC tournament this week?
Man, there's some matchups I'm intrigued by. It's definitely not Virginia. I hope they get beat first weekend. That way first round. That way I got to watch them the rest of the season. Wake Forest at number 5 seed. They need to pull out some wins if they want to be a bid, if they want to get an at-large bid. They might have to. I think in order for them to somewhat comfortably get an at-large bid, they're going to have to at least make it to the championship game, I think, in my opinion.
Right.
Like they've lost 3 of the last 4. I think they won their last game of the season. I don't actually remember. I didn't check it last night, but I know for a fact they lost 3 in a row. They lost to Notre Dame, lost to Virginia Tech, and lost to, I think, Georgia Tech or whatever it was. But sitting at the 5 seed, if they beat the winner of Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, who's already beaten them this season not too long ago, they would have to play Pitt. I think that's a winnable game for them. But in order for them to get to the championship game, they're going to have to go through North Carolina most likely. And that's a matchup. Like, I just don't think it's going to be farewell for Wake Forest. I think North Carolina gets to the championship game pretty comfortably, in my opinion. There's not a lot of teams up in their region. I think that can give them a scare. The bottom half, though, is going to get very, very interesting. Duke's obviously the 2 seed. They'll play the winner of either Syracuse, NC State, or Louisville. I think NC State goes through to play Duke in the quarterfinals. I think Duke wins that game, but I think Duke goes out in the semifinals to either Virginia or I don't think Duke makes it to the championship game. I just don't have faith in them right now in their depth. I think they struggle to get a string of stops together. They don't score the basketball at a high clip, not here recently at least. And I don't trust their guards. I don't trust their guards to put it together for full game. I think Duke goes out before the championship game, and I think North Carolina wins the ACC tournament.
Listen, you said a lot, but I agree. Wake Forest probably has as much to play for as anybody in this whole entire tournament. They were able to get the 5 seed. They're going to play the winner of Notre Dame, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech beat them just last week on a buzzer beater. I think, and honestly, there's not a lot of quad 1s there to be had that you're going to need. The ACC didn't have a whole lot of quad 1 opportunities. So they have to at least get to the semifinals and hope North Carolina is there, as crazy as it sounds. Hope North Carolina gets by Virginia Tech, Florida State, and then beat North Carolina and get to the final. I'm with you. Wake Forest has got to win probably 3 games in this tournament. I would think probably 3 to at least put themselves in a spot to be in the conversation next Sunday. I'm going to give you a sleeper here that also has a lot to play for. They're not really on the bubble, but they could potentially put themselves in a good spot. And that's 10-seeded North Carolina State. They get Louisville. Louisville will give them a good game. Like, this will probably be Kenny Payne's last game. They'll fight. They'll give them a good game. Carolina State should win. They'll play Syracuse. Syracuse is very beatable. Like, they're very beatable. If they get by Syracuse, then they're going to play Duke. They played Duke last week or earlier in this week to a really good game. Yeah. Duke ended up pulling it out. If they could make it to the semifinals, same way with Wake Forest, if they could go through Louisville, which is like quad 4, obviously, if they go by Syracuse, which would be, I think, maybe a quad 2, quad 3-ish, whatever they are. I haven't looked yet. And then beat Duke, which is a quad 1. You know what? Who's to say they couldn't beat a Virginia or Clemson or whoever in the semifinal? So I think North Carolina State, even though they've got to go run the gauntlet from Tuesday on, I think their matchups are actually very favorable if they can get hot. Like, the only team that's really super dangerous is North Carolina. So the ACC, to me, is up for grabs, even though I do think Carolina is going to win the tournament. Do you agree? You think Carolina?
Yeah, I've always said North Carolina wins this. But for a dark horse, I'm going to go too much into them. I think Syracuse, being the 6th seed, they got some stuff to prove. It's a 6th seed for me.
There's a 7. Clemson's a 6.
Really? Oh, and
Yeah.
damn it, John Rothstein, he posted this ACC bracket and he has Clemson.
This is on the official ACC Sports.com.
Okay, so I trust him, but I don't know why I'm trusting John Rothstein. You son of a bitch. Either way, I still think Clemson. Whether it's 6 or 7, I think Clemson. You know, they got PJ Hall, they got Joe Girard. They shoot about 35% from 3. If they can hit shots in this tournament, then I think Clemson could potentially make a run. But that's my dark horse. I think North Carolina wins it, though.
Let's move to the Big East real quick, Peyton. First round action begins March 13th. I think that's a Wednesday. You get the 8-9 matchup, Butler-Xavier. 7-10 is Providence-Georgetown. 6-11 is Villanova-DePaul. You talking about a team that desperately needs a couple wins, and that's Butler and the 8-9. That Xavier game is not going to be easy. And then if you win that, you get the honor of playing UConn on a noon on Thursday in Madison Square Garden. So best of luck to either Butler or Xavier there. But you know what? If one of the, like say Butler beats Xavier and then they could upset UConn, it puts them in the tournament. Here's another one of note. 4 or 5 seed that'll be played on Thursday afternoon. Seton Hall, St. John's, both teams very bubblicious. I think the winner goes to the tournament, loser is out. 2 seed Creighton, 3 seed Marquette. Creighton's going to play the winner of Providence, Georgetown, and Marquette's going to play the winner of Villanova, DePaul. Peyton, when you look at this, is there anybody besides UConn that's going to win this tournament?
Yeah, Creighton. I still really like Creighton.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they got one of the best starting 5s in the country. They just need one guy off the bench to do anything. And if they're hitting shots consistently, I think they can. I mean, they've already beat UConn. Now, it was at Creighton. I get that. But like I said, I still think UConn's the best team in the country. And I think they're the favorites to win the national championship. They're not going to get their number 1 overall seed. That's probably going to be Houston unless they fall early in the conference tournament for the Big 12. But I think if anybody besides UConn is going to win this, I trust Creighton to do it the most just because they got a great starting 5. And Baylor Shireman, if he gets going early, it's going to be a really difficult time to stop them consistently and string together some stops. I think Creighton is the second best team to win this, obviously, as being the 2 seed. I think UConn wants to do this, and I think they win it, though.
Yeah, I think UConn. That Seton Hall St. John's game, though, is going to be very interesting because, again, the winner probably in the tournament, the loser is probably out, and they play each other in the quarterfinals on Thursday afternoon. If there is a team to come from first round to get to the final, I think it's Villanova. They played DePaul, which should be an easy win. They played Marquette, who's hobbled. I don't think Colic will be back for this, so they're very beatable. That puts them in semifinals. You know, they could beat Creighton. Villanova is the team to watch to see how hot they could get potentially in this. I think they're the team to watch here in that tournament outside of like UConn. Let's move on to the Big 12. Unfortunately, the Big 12 Sports.com, they have the brackets, but they don't have it in bracket format. So I got to read this off. But on Tuesday, March 12th, you have opening round games. The number 12 seed UCF plays number 13, Oklahoma State. Number 11, Cincinnati plays number 14, West Virginia. Then you move to Wednesday. You'd have 5-seeded BYU playing the winner of that UCF, Oklahoma State. TCU, Oklahoma, and 8-9 is interesting. Texas and Kansas State in a 7-10. And then Kansas plays the last game on Wednesday night. Peyton, they're a 6 seed. Yeah. It looks so awkward to see Kansas as a 6 seed in the Big 12 tournament having to play on Wednesday. That's so awkward.
Yeah, man. This is a team that, you know, you'll pay attention or you'll read through my Big 12 media guide tomorrow, most likely. But I don't have confidence that this team. I think they can win a game. I think they'll beat the winner of West Virginia and Cincinnati. But when it comes to playing Baylor, we've already played them twice. We split the series. Baylor just have too much going for them now. Even though they lost the last game to Texas Tech, they ended up losing to Texas Tech last night. I still think this Baylor team has a point to prove, and they're going to want to win this game, and I think they'll beat Kansas. Kansas is one and done in the Big 12 tournament. The team that I want to keep an eye on, I think Houston, let me go and give my predictions. I think Houston wins the Big 12 tournament, but if a team like the early rounds is going to make a run, keep an eye on 7-seed Texas. They are playing so much better now. The 2 guards of Max Amos and Tyrese Hunter is a scary duo in March that you do not want to face. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournaments, even if they lose their first round game against Kansas State. But I think they'll beat Kansas State. the Iowa State game in the next round is going to be interesting. Obviously, they're going to have to be ready to score the basketball, and they got to be able to hit shots consistently against Iowa State, especially against that defense. But I think Texas is a team to watch out for early on to potentially make a run. I could see them making it to the semifinal matchup and getting beat. But Texas, with the guards that they've got some momentum coming on their side. They're starting to play a lot better. They're peaking at the right time. Watch out for Texas. But Houston wins this tournament.
Here's one coming from the first round. Cincinnati is an 11 seed. 18 and 13. They're not tournament bound, so they're going to have to try to win out. Peyton, they're a good offensive rebounding team, ranked 8th in the nation. They're a top 20 defense. They struggle scoring the ball at times, I know, but they beat West Virginia, which they did last night, blew them out, by the way, 92-56. Say they get by West Virginia. You talked about Kansas. We've talked about them. They're hobbled. They played Kansas one time back on Monday, January 22nd in Allen Fieldhouse and only lost by 5 when Kansas was fully healthy. I think Cincinnati can go on a little heater, beat West Virginia, knock Kansas out, as you mentioned, in a one-and-done scenario, get to the quarterfinals to play Baylor. And if you look, they played Baylor to a 3-point game, again, on the road, the only meeting they had. I think they could beat Baylor because their defense and force Baylor just go on some cold streaks to put them in the semifinals against maybe an Iowa State or Texas, and then anything can happen. I look out for Cincinnati to make a run in the Big 12 tournament. Ultimately, I think Houston's going to win. I don't think anybody has anything for them right now. I think Houston wins the Big 12 tournament, but I look for Cincinnati to shock some people and make a run to at least the semifinals. That's my bold prediction for that conference tournament. They play really good defense, man. And they got a guard that's electric and Jizzle James. So really interesting stuff. Let's move on to SEC. The reason we're skipping the Big 10, by the way, their tournament's not set. We're still at the end here of Michigan State, Indiana, so we'll have to preview the Big 10 on Thursday's show. Let's go to the SEC conference tournament, Peyton. Obviously, the 1 seed, right, is Tennessee. Kentucky's the 2, Alabama 3, Auburn the 4. When you look at the SEC tournament, talk to me about some of the stuff you're looking for.
I had to pull up the SEC tournament real quick, but Tennessee and Kentucky, I think, is going to be your final matchup. I'll go ahead and put that out there. Now, anything other than that, what happens in between those matchups can get very, very dicey, can be very interesting, because outside of like Missouri and Vanderbilt, any team can go on to make a run to win this tournament. I honestly believe that. Like this team, there's like 10 teams in this tournament that can go on and make a run and win like a couple games straight and win this tournament. I believe that. The thing is about Tennessee, I think they are a top 5 teams in the country. They've got the best player in the country in Dalton Connect. The offense is just clicking right now. Their defense is obviously going to be great. They're going to be physical with teams, and that's teams that I got to have to be ready to play against that, especially in a tournament format. I think Tennessee gets to the final. If they lose early, I think the team to beat them is going to be Auburn. Auburn's got good guards. They've got a lot going on for them right now. They're going to have to be able to score the basketball, though, which I have questions about. Other than that, if Tennessee drops an early game, it's going to be to Auburn, in my opinion. Kentucky's route to the final. They'll play the winner of Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is playing a little bit better right now, but I think Texas A&M Kentucky will face off in the quarters. I think Cats win that one. Offense is just too much for that. If Kentucky drops an early game, that'd be a rematch too. If Kentucky drops an early game, I can see it be to Florida, not Alabama. I don't think Alabama wins a game in this tournament. I think Florida goes on and beats them in the quarterfinals, and Florida and Kentucky face off in the semis. Tennessee and Auburn face off in the other semis, and then, like I mentioned, Tennessee faces Kentucky round 3 in the championship game in Nashville.
I like that. I like that. There's not a whole lot I can disagree with you on, Peyton. I'm with you. Normally we go in these SEC tournaments, there's like 3 teams max that we think that legitimately can win it. Dude, you look at this bracket and there's like 7 or 8 that you could make a case for that could get hot and win it. Like Mississippi State, LSU finished 8th in the conference.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. Taking everything into account, how they started the year and all this other stuff, that's an incredible job that LSU has done this year. 8. I mean, they may beat Mississippi State. Like, there's a chance, even though I think Mississippi State needs to win to solidify their resume. They need to move on to play Tennessee, who they've split the season series with. But LSU could get them. They've got good guards. South Carolina is a 5. If you're South Carolina, you love your path. You're going to play the winner of Arkansas Vanderbilt. Should beat either one of those. You're going to play Auburn as a 4 seed in the quarterfinals. That's 2 very, very stout defensive teams. Not a whole lot of offense. South Carolina could definitely beat Auburn and get to the semifinals, where they're probably going to play Tennessee, which we've seen they play them really good and they've beat them. So South Carolina's got to love their path, even though they've got to play the extra game. They didn't get the double bye. They got to feel good about trying to get to the title game on Sunday. A&M Ole Miss, they just played yesterday. A&M went to Ole Miss, beat the dog shit out of them. A&M still got electric guards. They got Wade Taylor. They got Tyrese Radford. You know, if they win, they're going to play Kentucky, who they've already beaten at home, and they're going to try to grind it out. They've got to feel good that if they can get by Ole Miss, they can pull the double and knock Kentucky out. So we'll see, especially the tournament atmospheres. We never talk about it. It's a one-and-done scenario, especially if you don't come out ready to go from the tip. Like, you could find yourself down early, and it's a little harder. That pressure sets in. Florida, I'm with you. I think Florida's a 6 seed. They'll play the last game on second round night on Thursday. I still really like Georgia. They've been a little disappointing this year as an 11 seed. They should beat Missouri, who didn't win a conference game, then play Florida. I think Florida wins, and then they'll get the rubber match between them and Alabama. And again, like we talked about last week in this game, Florida's offensive rebounding. They can score the ball as well as anybody can. I think semifinals Saturday, you're going to see 1 seed Tennessee against 5 seed South Carolina, 2 seed Kentucky against 6 seed Florida. I think I'm with you. The championship, we'll get the rubber match, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then we'll see what happens. Keep in mind, it's in Nashville, and who's going to take over that building in that city this upcoming week? Big Blue Nation. If there is a sleeper, I know it's going to sound crazy because they're only 15 and 16, but they're playing some of their better basketball, and that's Arkansas. I know they lost 3 of 4 to end the year, but they easily could have beat Kentucky. They easily could have beat Alabama. They beat LSU, who we just mentioned is playing better. They played Mississippi State to a 4-point game on the road. They beat Texas A&M. The point being, although they've not been great all year, they're playing their best basketball right now. They've got talent still. Arkansas has got to kind of like their bracket too, because if you get by Vandy, you play South Carolina. That's a tough defensive matchup. Maybe you beat South Carolina, maybe beat Auburn. Now you're in the semifinals. So I think Arkansas, if there's a sleeper, it's going to be Arkansas. So we'll see.
Yep, I agree.
Let's move on real quick to the Pac-12. Not a whole lot to talk about here, to be honest. The teams that got the bye, Arizona's the 1, Washington State's the 2, Colorado 3, Oregon the 4. Peyton, if you're the Pac-12, you feel good about Arizona, Washington State being locks in the tournament.
Yep.
But it might be only a 2-bid league, as crazy as that is. If you're the Pac-12 commissioner secretly, you hope Arizona gets beat and somebody else steals the automatic bid to at least get 3 teams in. Like, you're praying that a USC can get hot, or UCLA or Utah, to get as many teams as possible in this tournament. And again, we talked about how we're not super high on Arizona. I mean, they're going to play the winner of the 8-9 matchup between Washington and USC. USC just beat Arizona last night. So when you look at this conference tournament, what do you see?
I see Arizona and Washington State being the final, and then after that, I don't know. I mean, Washington State swept them this year, but it's hard to beat a team. Hey, Trevor, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. Hope you listen to that. It is hard. I don't care what you said. I mean, look at the facts. Like, ask any coach in the country. Like, it is hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. But other than that, like, if you're in the Pac-12 commissioner, you want a team like Colorado or USC to upset them and win the tournament to get 3 bids. But if you're me, I don't want that to happen. And here's why. Because if Colorado or USC or one of those teams that's not named Arizona or Washington State goes on to steal a bid, that's going to steal a bid away from an Indiana State. And I don't want that to happen.
True.
I don't want that to happen.
Point.
So Arizona, Washington State, do your damn job. Either one of you, I don't really care. I think Arizona's going to win the Pac-12 championship, but either one of you win, and let's get Indiana State in the tournament, because if one of those teams don't win the tournament and a bid stealer comes in and does, it's going to steal a bid from Indiana State, and I don't want that to happen.
I'm going to get wild here. I'm going to say USC gets all the way to the final.
Go ahead.
They're going to get hot. I think last night's win did something for them. Boogie Ellis didn't play well, and they still beat Arizona. I think USC beats Washington, beats Arizona, beats Oregon in the semis, because UCLA will beat Oregon State, and then Oregon will beat them. USC beats Oregon, get to the final. On the bottom half of the bracket, you'll have a semifinal matchup of Washington State and Utah. They're going to beat Arizona State in 6-11. They'll turn around the next day, beat Colorado. And then I think Utah gets to the final to play USC. I think a bid stealer is coming, unfortunately. And I think Utah is going to win the Pac-12 championship. I think this is going to be the conference tournament that's going to get wild, absolute wild. I'm going a 6-seed Utah winning over a 9-seed USC to win the automatic bid. I just think we're going to get crazy with it down there in Las Vegas. Mountain West, let's talk about this one real quick. This has been one of the most fun leagues all year to watch. I think they could get 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. The 1-seed Utah State, you've got 2-seed Nevada, 3-seed Boise State, 4-5 matchup between UNLV, San Diego State. How about San Diego State being the 5-seed? UNLV is the 4. UNLV is the 4. Colorado State fell to the 7, New Mexico with the 6. I think we know our answer. The team that needs to get a couple wins in this tournament is New Mexico. They need to help their resume badly, and they've got to win against Air Force in round 1. Then they've got to flip it the next day and beat Boise State as a 3-seed and at least get to the semifinals. They've got to win a couple, Peyton. When you look at this tournament, this should be a fun one out in Vegas. I mean, what are you looking at here?
Oh, man. Like, if I was to go to another conference tournament, I would probably want to go to this one over any like Power 6 conference tournaments that's not named like the SEC. Like SEC would probably be my number 1. Mountain West would probably be my number 2. It's because like there's like 6 or 7 teams in this league that can go on and win this bracket. Like it's ridiculous. I hope they get like 6 teams in the tournament because I think they deserve it. They've had a fun season. A lot of craziness has been transpiring over this last couple of months of conference play. But here's how I think this goes down. I think New Mexico beats Air Force. Now I think New Mexico goes on and beats Boise State because they're going to have to. And I think Boise State, although they're a good team, and they just got a good win over, I think it was Utah State a couple days ago. I think New Mexico goes in to use that Boise State game. I think New Mexico upsets the Boise State to go to the semis. I think Nevada goes to the semis. I think Utah State obviously goes to the semis. And I think San Diego State beats UNLV in the second round or quarterfinals, whatever it is, to go to the semis. I have Utah State versus San Diego State, and I have Nevada versus New Mexico. I have Utah State taking on Nevada. The top 2 teams in this league, and Nevada is on one of the hottest streaks in the country. They've won like 11 of the last 12 games. It's incredible. They shoot about 38%. 37% from 3. They have been lighting up the nets here recently, and they've got like a top 40 defense in the country, according to KenPom. Steve Alford's done a hell of a job getting this team, getting the momentum up, heading into the conference tournament time. They're peaking at the right time. Nevada, like I picked in the Jerome, Nevada beats Utah State and punches the ticket into the big dance.
So I'm looking at that 4-5 UNLV. They're 72nd in KenPom. They're 19-11 overall. They've won 10 of their last 12, the only 2 losses being to in-state rival Nevada by a combined 14 points. You look at their resume. They're not in anybody's tournament bracket yet, even though they're the 4 seed in the Mountain West. They've got wins over tournament teams in Stetson and Creighton, probably Akron if Akron holds serve as the 1 seed and wins the MAC. That's 3 wins against tournament teams. And not including, like, they've got wins over New Mexico, Boise State. They swept New Mexico, actually. They beat San Diego State. So they beat Colorado State. So they've got wins against the tournament field. I think if they can beat San Diego State in that quarterfinal in that 4-5 matchup, I think they might get in the NCAA tournament, Peyton. I really do. I think that's a huge game, and it's right there in their backyard in Vegas. I think watch out for that 4-5 game on quarterfinal Thursday. If UNLV can beat San Diego State and get another quad 1 win, I think that could punch them into the NCAA tournament. Then they'd probably play Utah State in the semis. Who knows what will happen there? I think, again, New Mexico's got the most riding on this tournament. They've got to beat Air Force. They cannot drop that game. Then they got to flip it and beat Tyson Dingenhart and Boise State. That would be another quality win. And then either, whether it be Colorado State, Nevada in the semis, then if they can get to the championship Saturday to play whoever, I think they're in. But they've got to win probably at least 2 to get in safely, maybe 3. They kind of hurt themselves in the back end of the year there, but New Mexico's got a lot riding on this. Pate, I picked them in the Jerome. I think they're going to run the table. I think they're going to win the Mountain West. And I also, bold prediction, I've got UNLV beating San Diego State. I'm not in love with San Diego State. So I think UNLV, they're playing well, 10 of 12 here lately, the end of the year. I like UNLV in this one, and I like New Mexico to win the conference tournament. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. Peyton, let's start wrapping things up. Look at bracketology here. Jonathan Warner from this morning updated. The 1 seeds, the only changes, North Carolina did go up to the 1. They're going out west as of right now. Kentucky's up to a 4. Lenardi's got them at 3. Again, Warner, why are they a 4? No offense to Kansas, but they're struggling. They're super hurt right now. Swap Kentucky and Kansas. Like, did that Tennessee win not a big enough quad 1 for you? Flip those 2. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Florida's an 8. That 8, you talk about a fun 8-9 matchup, Peyton. In the South region, Florida 8, Michigan State a 9. The winner probably gets Houston in the second round. Florida's one of those teams that we've talked about that could give Houston a problem with their size, with their 3-point shooting ability, with their really good guards, and the way they offensive rebound. Ooh, I'd have to think about that, Florida over Houston second round. But when you look at this bracket here, Peyton, obviously Indiana State's still in. This isn't updated yet, but anything stand out to you?
Yeah, Akron, 14 seed, taking on 3 seed Kansas. I would not look forward to that matchup. Akron has a really good team. They got a lot of depth. They don't shoot the 3 ball as good as they have been in the past couple of years, but they still shoot it at a pretty consistent rate. All they need to do is just hit a couple threes, and if they can start this game off hot, then especially if we're still injured, which we're most likely going to be, I think Akron could honestly upset us in the first round, and that hurts to say, but Akron's a really good team, and Kansas has too many injury woes and just not consistent enough right now to potentially win that game. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, Kentucky being the 4 seed is kind of crazy. You need to flip-flop Kentucky and Kansas. Like, I'm a Kansas fan. You need to flip-flop them. There's no reason Kansas should still be on the 3 seed line. Like, there's no reason for that whatsoever. Looking at some of the 5 seeds, Utah State's 5 seed. They'd play Grand Canyon, which that would be an entertaining game. Honestly, I think Grand Canyon can win that game, but I think Utah State would end up winning that one. Mindy State taking on BYU. Will Wade has done an incredible job. Go check out my Southland preview, by the way, on YouTube.
That's a juicy upset.
That's a juicy upset. Shahada Wells is an incredible player. They've got 4 or 5 guys that can just stretch it out and shoot about 38% from 3. 4 out, 1 in. That's an upset waiting to happen, I believe. That game's going to be like the first 80 wins that one. That'd be fun. But other than Kentucky seeding-wise and North Carolina being the 1 seed, I think they should be. That's the only thing I got for this.
You look at his last 4 in, he's got New Mexico, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Texas A&M. All 4 we've talked about. All 4 have got a lot to play for in their respective conference tournaments. He does have St. John's and Seton Hall in, but on 11 and 10 respectively. So again, UNC Asheville still is a 15. Obviously, they're not going dancing. Replace them with Longwood here. They would play Tennessee, so it doesn't matter. Tennessee will probably roll them. You want a juicy upset if this was the bracket. 2 seed Marquette, 15 seed Colgate. Colgate won today. They will be playing for their conference championship tomorrow on Monday. Colgate shoots 36.7% from 3, and they're 13th in the nation defending the 3. Teams only shoot 30% against them. They've played Syracuse to a 4-point game this year. Arizona beat the hell out of them, but it's good experience. Illinois beat the hell out of them. Good experience. They played probably another tournament team, Cornell. beat them by 13. That's not the point. The point is that they played higher and good competition in the non-con to prepare them for a potential NCAA tournament. They shoot the three well. They've got a stud in Braden Smith, their sophomore Braden Smith. If Marquette's not fully healthy, Peyton, if that was the matchup, Colgate over Marquette 15-2, I think that's the one I would lean against right there, or lean to. I like that a lot.
Potentially. No, one note on Colgate, but they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. But a lot of that has to do with probably how well they shoot it from three. It's hard to get offensive rebounds if the ball's going in the net all the time. So keep an eye on that. Braden Smith is fantastic. I definitely, if Kolek is like 50% in this game, I think Colgate can win. But if he's anywhere up to like 80% in this game, then I think Marquette would end up winning that one. But it would be intriguing to watch. I'll tell you that.
The first four out he has as of now is Iowa, Providence, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech. Again, Wake Forest got a lot to play for this upcoming week in the ACC tournament. But let's start rounding things out here with shout outs. Mine, I'm going to go to, I think we'll share this one. Drew Thelwell.
Yep.
21 last night in the title clinching performance for Morehead State to win the OVC Championship tournament. Came on here at the top of the show. Great dude, great young man, rooting for him and his team next week and the weeks beyond in March. So shout out to Drew Thelwell. Shout out Dalton Connect for dropping 40. Again, not the most efficient 40, but 40's 40, Peyton. And then shout out to Stetson for making my Jerome pick come true and then fending off a scrappy Jacksonville team, fending off a really tough Austin P team to get back. And the last one, shout out to the Missouri Valley Conference Championship teams. Drake, Indiana State gave us a hell of a game. Both teams deserve to be in the tournament. Those are my shout outs for this fine Sunday.
I got two shout outs. One of them you just mentioned. Shout out to Jersey Drake, the Bulldogs, back-to-back MVC champions, like I predicted in my drone picks and like I predicted last week on Thursday. Trevor and Josh both picked Indiana State, rightfully so. I knew it was going to be a good game. I was the only one who picked Drake. Drake ended up winning. Congratulations. I'm going to try to work and see if I can get Coach Reeves on the pod here soon or do like a YouTube video like we did last year. We'll see. I'm in the works of that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, though. So shout out to them. Tucker DeVries is great. And Coach Reeves is obviously a hell of a coach as well. So shout out to the whole program. Back-to-back MVC champions. My next shout out and my last shout out goes to Tom Pecora from Quinnipiac. Hope I said that name correctly. They won the outright Metro Atlantic Athletic Championship. Man, that's such a hard-ass cough.
The
MAC. That's what I'm calling it. The MAC. They won the MAC. They finished in his first year at the helm. They finished with 20-3 or 23-8, in year one under Tom Pecora, and they will be the 1 seed in the MAC tournament in Atlantic City. So shout out to him and shout out to the whole program. Congratulations.
Yeah, and shout out to all of you. Thank you for following along. We had quite a few people pop in and out watching the live video. Go download the audio podcast version of this when it comes out later. Like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube, go subscribe to the TikTok as well. We just revealed the ECB / House of College Hoops co-branded bracket challenge. You can find all the rules and how to sign up, payments and all that on the Facebook group. Just go search up Everything College Basketball on Facebook to go find that information. But for Peyton and everybody here at ECB, we thank you. We are in Champ Week. 1 week from today, we will find out the official reveal, the Field of 68. Until Thursday, though, where we'll come back and we'll talk some more conference tournaments and more automatic qualifiers that happen throughout the week, and then get down to the nitty-gritty of the final week of non-NCAA tournament college basketball. We hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will catch you all down the road. Peace.